that you have putting together. So I am a huge fan of the chat, okay? And Jennifer said earlier that we were chatting with people who are coming from all over the place. So I'd love to get us started by just drop where you are joining us from into the chat. All right, I'm joining you guys from Indy, from the great campus of IUPUI, but I know we might have some people that are joining us from here, there, and everywhere. Jennifer's in California. I see somebody in Bloomington, in Chicago. Somebody's at the Canal, nice. University of Minnesota, Dallas, Nigeria, love it. Colombia, love it, fantastic. I love seeing this, and all through the power of Zoom, so fantastic that you guys were able to join us here today. Ghana, fantastic. Yes, somebody's in the science building. Shout out to you too. Fantastic. All right, so the next question I have for you guys is, I want you to raise your hand, use one of the reactions or something, if you do not like receiving a gift. You don't want a gift. I need to take you off my Christmas list. No packages, no gifts for you. I'll give it a minute. But this is exactly what I expected. I expected that nobody would raise their hand, right? Because who doesn't like to receive a gift? Who doesn't like to receive something, especially when it comes unexpectedly, right? We all like to receive gifts. We all like to receive packages, right? When that Amazon person comes by or the UPS person, you're like, oh, it's Christmas right here. And so we're super excited about that. So what I want you to do today is think about presenting your grad school application as a gift, as a package, because you truly are going to be a fantastic gift to whatever program you get accepted into. So we're going to talk a little bit about presenting your package, about the graduate school application, and about how we can effectively present ourselves so that we are getting people to understand that we are really a present. All right, so Dr. Queener talked a little bit about the graduate application package and what it may have. So I'll say that each school and program might have different processes and different deadlines. So what that means is that you're going to have to do a little bit of homework. You're going to have to do some research. You're going to have to use your phones for good and Google some things and check to see what deadlines and what process these schools have for their applications. So there are some parts of the grad school application which are pretty common, and we talked about a few of these already. One is the demographics, right? They're all going to ask you for name, address, birth date, things like that. They're going to ask you about your educational history because they want to make sure that you have at least attained that bachelor degree, right? They're going to also ask you about the personal statement, which we're going to focus on later in this program, but they might break it up a little bit and ask you for particular essay questions. I've seen this happen a lot in applications where instead of them asking for a longer personal statement, they have shorter, more specific questions that may ask or may address a specific challenge or a specific experience that you've had over your time. You may also still see some folks out there that have some standardized tests, right? A lot of our programs have said goodbye to the GRE, the graduate record exam, and that's great. Great news for a lot of us who may or may not like taking tests, but there are programs still, especially in our professional programs, that still want that standardized test. So if you're going to med school, you're going to have to take the MCAT. If you're going to law school, more than likely you'll have to take the LSAT. So do understand those requirements and take those exams early if needed, because what if you don't get the score that you ultimately want, right? Then you may need time to take it again. And then, of course, we talked about those letters of recommendation. Super important to have good letters of recommendation. And I'm going to say strong letters of recommendation, right? Because a not so good letter of recommendation is going to do you a lot of harm and not any good. I actually had to tell students that I don't necessarily feel comfortable writing a strong letter of recommendation for you. So I would suggest when you ask for those letters, ask specifically if they can write a strong letter of recommendation for you. Transcripts. People don't really think about transcripts, but your programs are going to ask you for a transcript and an official transcript. So you won't be able to get away with those unofficial transcripts, usually for your application. And then what happens? You might have an admission interview, right? So they'll talk to you about why you want to be in this program, right? So I suggest, especially for our programs, and I'm going to put our shameless plug in right here, that you apply and take out the website early on so that you won't miss any of those deadlines and can create the best package possible for yourself. So that's going to take a little bit of planning, all right? And so I'm glad to see you guys are here today because you're going to have to do a little bit of planning in order to get all of this done and present the best possible package. All right, so some things to consider. What type of program are you applying for? If you still have questions about that, do let us know and we can sit down and have some chats and help you flesh things out. Have you completed the necessary prerequisites? If there are shadowing components, contact hours, there are some programs that might need those things. So how are you going to find that out? Well, you're going to have to go to their website and take a look to see whether or not they have certain prerequisites and if they have other things that they might require before you are admitted into their program. Do you have a resume or even a CV, which is the curriculum vitae, which is where you would really kind of talk about all of the things that you would have done and document those things. Also, is it up to date, right? That's a really great question. If you had an experience over the summer, but you haven't added it to your resume or CV, you definitely need to take the time before you do your graduate application package to update your materials. Has somebody reviewed it, right? Are you the only one that's looking at your stuff? If so, I would just recommend that you share it with a few people. If it is the career counselors in your area, if they are the people who are writing your letters of recommendation, if it is the folks who you are in contact with for the graduate programs, have someone review your resume and your CV. And then I'm going to suggest that you also have or build something like a LinkedIn profile, because a lot of people, especially professionals in the field, contact and view people via LinkedIn. So go ahead and build that profile. In fact, right now, if you don't have any social media, kind of looks almost suspicious that you don't have that. So build that LinkedIn profile. If you have a website that you've created, you can share that. If you have an e-portfolio, I have some students that are going to work on their e-portfolio this semester, and share that as well, because those are really unique ways that you can showcase your work and share what you've done. So I always suggest LinkedIn to people to see if you've already made some networking connections, and you may be making some right now that you can add. I'm hoping that you all will add me on your LinkedIn profile or add our office for your LinkedIn profile so that you can keep up with things that way. A lot of schools have LinkedIn profiles and they share materials and share things that way. So I would definitely have some sort of a social media presence where you are following those schools that will allow you to network with people from those areas as well. All right, so you might also consider what skill set you might need for your next step, and then what future steps may look like for you. Okay, so this might allow you or have you listing the skill sets that you have that align with whatever your future goals are. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this. Okay, How do you present your package? Now, I'm gonna ask you to raise your hands again. And I want you to take a look on the left-hand side. How many of you would be super excited to receive this gift? I'm looking, waiting to see some hands. Yeah, well, Philip, you're like me, Philip. I'd be super excited to receive any gift, right? So, so there's some of us that would be excited to receive any gift, right? No matter what it looks like, okay? But more than likely, you would probably be more excited to receive one of the gifts on the right-hand side, just because it looks better, right? Just because it looks better, just because the package is presented in a way that is more appealing. Wow, that's something to think about, Dr. Hardy. You right? Okay. But maybe I'd be happy either way. Okay. Now there might be $1,000 wrapped in this terribly wrapped package. I don't know that yet. All right. So thinking about that slide, but also think about how you present yourself, right? Okay. And so we are only looking at face value, right? Person A, person B, who, and you can drop our A or B in the chat. Who would you think may be best ready for an interview or for a job or for a position, just A or B? And all you're doing is looking at who is what you see here. I see lots of A's popping up. Lots of A's popping up. And I would have to agree with you, right? Okay. Oh, this is a good. Becca said it depends on the job. You're right, Becca. I agree with that. And Dr. Queener said, I can't tell. Yes, usually depends on the field, but usually A, right? Person B is ready for boot camp because they got their camouflage on. I'm not mad at that. But yeah, I would probably tend to roll with the people who said person A may look like they are more well put together and ready for whatever this opportunity is that presents itself. Okay. But what if I shared a little bit more about person A and person B and the fact that they were both applying to graduate programs? We'll share a little more. All right, let's see. Now, take a look at person A and person B. And this is digging a little bit deeper, not totally deep, right? So who do you feel may be the best or better applicant? And you can drop those letters in the chat. B. So we got a total flip-flop. Oh, and Philip says A, yes. Lots of folks saying B. Great thoughts here, right? Okay. So why do we go from person A to person B when we dug a little bit deeper? Well, person A presented a great package, right? And he may still present a great package, okay? But I think you guys tapped into something that could be really true of a lot of admissions committees, right? A lot of admissions committees are definitely going to take a look at GPAs and at the participation that people have had. So person A has had a lower GPA than person B, but participates in organizations on campus. Person B has a higher GPA, is part of the Honor Society, and completed an internship. So based on those things and kind of looking a little bit deeper than that outward appearance, I would think person B would also be a great applicant. Okay, they both may be great applicants, no doubt, right? But person B might be the stronger applicant. And if I had only one slot to give to students, right? Who do you think would get that position? Who do you think would get that slot? Probably person B. Okay, probably person B, because they do have the stronger GPA, because they were part of the honor society, and because they did have an internship experience in whatever area they were applying to. So interesting thoughts there. All right, so let's think about how to put this package together. All right, even when you are presenting yourself, right? Hello, I'm awesome, right? But introduce yourself, tell people your name, your major, your hometown, your goals, right? But when you do those things, we call that presenting and making an elevator pitch, okay? And sometimes you have to really think about creating that elevator pitch so that people understand what your goal is and what you are hoping to gain from having a conversation with them, okay? So when you do this, have some eye contact, project your voice, watch your mannerisms. I'm one that talks with my hands a lot, right? Do have some level of excitement, because nobody wants to talk to you if you're talking like this and you really don't have any excitement about this field that you're trying to go into, okay? And then in this Zoom world, it's really important to think about what's going on in your background, right? And sometimes we do have to take Zooms in inconvenient location. But if there's a blur that you can use or a photo that you could put up, it may be helpful and less distracting than having, you know, people walk through during your talk, right? Or your interview. All right. I have had some really terrible interview stories where people were trying to do interviews on their phones in their cars while somebody else was driving with the radio on. That's just not how you want to present yourself, right? It's not. So when you get that call and they say, okay, you can do this interview at this time, please try to find a space and a place where you will not be distracted. Yeah, it was a lot. It's a lot to deal with. All right. So a lot of times this will take some email correspondence, and you may have to email people for your letters of recommendation. You might even have to reach out to programs and people who are program representatives to get more information. So how do we do this in a way that sounds professional? So I would always say use those formal tones throughout the body for greetings and for closing. Err on the side of caution. You don't know these people for the most part, right? So say, dear Dr. Roper, dear Professor Queener, and utilize those formal tones. And I think sometimes what happens is we have gotten very comfortable in not using those formal tones. And it does have a tendency to have us sound a little bit less professional. So keep that in mind as you do this work as well. Be precise and direct with why you contacted them. I'm emailing you because I'm interested in conducting research in your lab. That is about as precise and direct as you can be. So do that and really think about what your purpose is for contacting them. Then set a time and a date to follow up if needed, okay? Please let me know your availability to discuss this further. And I will also say, if you don't get the reply within 24 hours, 48 hours, I would not be worried about that, okay? Honestly, because if their inbox is anything like my inbox, they're getting a lot of emails on a daily basis. If you don't hear from them within, I would say, give them about a week. If you're not hearing from them after a week, to follow up with those folks, okay? So I also do a little bit in the subject line as well. And I have some colleagues that do even better than me. Provide some personally identifying details in that subject line. So you might put in the subject line, biology 310. So now this person knows what class you're from, or what talking time you're thinking about, 10 a.m., scheduling a meeting outside of office hours. So now they already know what you want to do with your email correspondence. Be direct and let people know very quickly. Okay. Do write some well-written paragraphs, write incomplete sentences, no text language or emoticons or emojis. Okay. No purple demon emojis. Use appropriate punctuations, no poop emojis, none of that. Okay. Avoid it, please. At least for the emails. Okay. And avoid personal attacks, right? People are less likely to help you when you personally attack them. And that certainly can happen, especially if you feel like you received a bad grade on something and you may be acting out of emotion. I would just caution you from writing anything that you might regret at some point, right? Or that might cause a strain between a relationship with the person that you are writing to. Okay. Wait patiently for a reply. Okay. I've already kind of mentioned that. And then if you need to, follow up. Okay. All right. So I want you to kind of think about this whole thing and presenting yourself and presenting your package and ask yourself, what is your purpose, right? Because I think that even in your graduate work, you want to think about what your higher purpose is for doing that work, right? And other folks will certainly ask you, why do you want to apply to this program? Or why are you interested in this area? Okay. And that has to be a question that you can answer. So do think about what your purpose is and how this class or this school or this program is going to help you to achieve that goal. What do you need to reach your goal, right? I could not leave my office and say, I'm going to go to the dental school and become a dentist today. Nope. I need to go through the dental training first, right? I have to go to dental school before I can go and claim that I'm a dentist and start pulling people's teeth out. Otherwise, that's a criminal act and I could not like really carry on that way, right? So do you need this in order to achieve your goal? Okay. Are you putting forth the effort that is needed in order to attain that goal? Are you challenging yourself? Okay. And I think there's always room for growth, right? So do think about, are you challenging yourself and what experiences could help you grow? And as we kind of shift into a space that feels more normal and is less pandemic-ish, there may be some opportunities that are opening up now that will allow you to have some experiences that will help you to kind of grow into whatever fields you're interested in. So definitely think about why you're here. Think about what goals you have, the steps that you need to take in order to achieve them. Okay. And in some spaces, you may really have to be very self-motivated. Okay. Despite some doubt, despite questions from other folks, I remember as I kind of started thinking about graduate school, I was already in an area and in a field where I was teaching 7th and 8th grade, right? So I could have continued to just teach 7th and 8th grade, could have done that for 30 years. But that wasn't what I wanted to do. I was motivated to move further and to attain my PhD. And because of that, I did have to field some questions from family. Well, why do you want to do that? You already got a job. It's a good job, right? So think about those things as well as you kind of feel the doubt and the questions from others. Stay motivated. If this is your goal, you can do it. We can help you. All right. Think about any presentations that you've done, any opportunities, and maybe that involved summer research. Maybe that involved shadowing experiences, maybe that involve an internship, okay? And also think about any experiences where you yourself were being mentored or you were acting as a mentor. And those are really super important as you kind of think about what your next steps may look like. Those mentors may be folks that you can call on for letters of recommendations. All right. And I always tell people to think about building your own professional brand. All right. So anytime you see this smiley face, you already know what it is. What is it? Somebody putting it in the chat? You can unmute yourself and tell me this one. It's Amazon. When you see that smiley face, yep, exactly. When you see that smiley face, you already know what it is. It's Amazon. When somebody sees your smiling face, they should already know what it is, right? They should already know who you are. So you are building your professional brand every single day. And Dr. Queen mentioned this student that was in the classroom falling asleep, right? Or taking naps. If somebody sees your smiling face and they think, oh, that's the one that takes naps all the time, that's not a good professional brand to have, right? So we want that when we see you or they see you, they're going to see your personal brand, right? When you see this one, what do you know it is? You know that's Mickey Mouse, okay? And you know that it represents that Walt Disney Company, right? So you already know what that brand represents, okay? And what about this one? Indiana yes, that's right. IU, right? Indiana University. So you already know when you see this, you see the whole brand, right? When people see you, we want them to see you and your brand, right? What are you bringing to this table? What brand are you building? What brand are you showing yourself? That's right, champions. I see you. Exactly. That's great. All right. So how do you want to be remembered? How do people see you? Okay. And how are you kind of wanting to be seen? Are there things that you can do to kind of work on being seen in a different light or in a better light, right? What do you want your letters of recommendation to say? Okay. And then what can you do now to develop or strengthen your brand? So things to kind of think about as you are thinking about how to present yourself as a graduate school applicant. All right, so we've talked about all of these different parts of the grad school application, and now we want to put it all together. We want to wrap the package. Right now, these folks had some issues wrapping the package. Didn't have enough paper or don't have the tape quite right. Pretty terrible wrapping job right here. Did not go to YouTube for the tutorials on wrapping packages. So, but you are going to do much better at that. Okay. So think about these packaging for grad school, right? So you know that there are certain admissions requirements, right? So make sure that you're meeting those basic admissions requirements. There are education requirements. So they ask that you have completed a baccalaureate degree, okay, the bachelor's, right? And then any additional required info. Some folks might want those test scores, right? They'll likely need a personal statement. And a lot of programs want at least 3 letters of recommendation. Some want less, some may want 2. And then I would definitely say that someone, one of them needs to be a professor in your area of interest, right? And then one person, if you are especially thinking about PhD programs, they need to have supervised you through a research project or a capstone project or something so that you can let them know and that person can let them know how you worked through the research setting, okay? So person A's experience, she may put on her resume that she was a Girl Scout troop leader. Now you can put that you're a Girl Scout troop leader, or you can also put that you developed leadership skills as a Girl Scout troop leader, right? But when I see this, I may not see all of these different skills that she's bringing to the table, unless she packages it that way, right? As a Girl Scout troop leader, they develop leadership skills. They likely value diversity. They can work with various populations. But unless that is articulated and communicated, then I wouldn't know that. All I would see is Girl Scout troop leader, right? So think about how you are packaging your experiences. What are you writing in your application? Are you just writing Girl Scout troop leader? Or are you writing that you did develop leadership skills? You learned to work with a team. You learned to value diversity, all of those different things that you could add into your application package. I could see somebody and they just put down summer research, and I've seen this before. Summer research with Dr. So-and-so. That's all they put. But that summer research, you develop project management skills, you developed analytical skills, you likely worked alongside a team, you likely had to see a project from beginning to end. All of those are really very, very, Joseph, mute yourself, okay? But all of those are very important. What about if you were a camp counselor? And a lot of people have that experience. You had to manage people, you had to manage time, you likely gathered some teaching experience. And if you were at science camp, then you probably had to learn some things in science. If it was a different type of camp or discipline specific, you could also add that into your package. All right, so I told you guys I've seen this before, summer research experience, right? I had a summer experience with Dr. So-and-so. Well, what does that really mean? And what can we really get out of this, right? Well, on the research side, this person likely conducted experiments, they collected data, they analyzed data, they designed and evaluated experiments, they presented that data at a lab meeting, they might have even presented it at a conference, they honed their technical skills, right? They probably or may have even contributed to manuscripts. But could I have gotten all of that by this one line that says summer research experience? Probably not. All right. But what else did they gain? Okay, so they gained some skills in data analysis. They gained skills and abilities to work independently and as a team. They were able to set priorities because they had to get their project done, right? Time management. They likely had to show some respect and sensitivity to cultural differences if they were working with people in a specific setting, right? They might have gained some skills in computer applications, project management skills, all of those different things that they got from this summer research experience that they could pull from and share with people as a part of their application. All right. So as you're wrapping this package, you can write your resume, your CV, your personal statement. Use those action words, okay? And you can use action words that describe your management and your leadership skills. Saying things like, I administered this, right? We administered tests to over 100 people. We administered a survey to this number, right? We analyzed this data, okay, or analyzed the shipping rate, okay, appointed, approved, assigned, attained, right? All of those can describe your management and your leadership skills. What about your research skills? You likely analyzed some things, clarified, collected, compared. Critiqued is one of my favorites, right? Diagnosed, evaluated, all of those different ways to think about and to express your research skills. Communication skills, right? You addressed this, you advertised, you arbitrated, all of those different things. And it all does build up to you communicating your experience, right? And wrapping it in a very nice package. update that LinkedIn profile. I will mention it again, right? And then definitely do check your social media pages, okay? If you have not Googled yourself in a while, I would definitely suggest that you do that. Google yourself, see what pops up. If some negative things pop up, try to get it taken down, okay? Because there are people who may Google you, right? Especially if they're bringing you into their program, they may do that. So make sure that you Google yourself and you're aware of what's out there, okay? All right, what if your application package isn't quite ready? Okay, what if your package is not ready? What can you do? I would say take advantage of any opportunities that come your way, right? Put yourself in some uncomfortable positions, right? And uncomfortable situations, because that allows you to grow, okay? And sometimes we don't know what we like until we're exposed to it. I didn't necessarily know that I liked research until I did some research, right? So that was really kind of an eye opener to me, because in the beginning I thought I was going to be an MD, and then I realized I didn't really like patients that much. I didn't want people coughing on me. I didn't really necessarily want to deal with blood every day. I didn't want that life. So I realized that research was a much better field for me, and it still allowed me to do healthcare research and allowed me to help people, but I didn't necessarily have to be involved in that patient care. Sorry, y'all, I haven't moved in a minute. Hopefully it'll come on. Yeah. So put yourself in those uncomfortable situations. If you realize that you don't love this, it's better to find out early on than to be in a 4 or 5 year program and then realize, oh gosh, I really don't love this, right? Okay. Make suggestions to improve your own learning, right? Build a mentoring team. I'm really big on building a mentoring team. And that means you may have some people on your team that are your cheerleaders. You may have some people that are the people that poke you and tell you, yeah, didn't you have this deadline? Have you gotten that done yet? You may have the people that cuddle you and coddle you, and then you may have those folks that that like hold you to what you said you were going to do. So you need all of those people to be on your team. You need the dream team of mentors to help you get through the process. Okay. Community service, and I would even say strategic community service. If you have an interest in health and wellness, maybe you do some strategic community service with groups that focus on health and wellness. If you have an interest in working with youth programs, maybe you do some community service with youth programs, right? Join organizations and professional societies, because a lot of that will help you do some great networking and networking with people who have been in areas that you want to be in. Make an action plan, right? And figure out what that may look like, because it may include some deadlines that you may have to take on. Take courses to build your skills, especially if it's those prerequisite courses. Don't get discouraged, okay? And I know it's easy to do that because you see this as a goal of yours, and some of it may seem unsurmountable, but you can do it, okay? All right, so hopefully that was helpful to you guys, and you all will bring us beautiful packages all wrapped in a bow. I want to thank you guys and take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Hardy, and we will be taking a break in just a minute, but let's go ahead and see if there's any questions. We do have time for some chat with faculty and questions and answers on our agenda, but anything specific to Dr. Hardy, go ahead and unmute or put in the chat.
Hi, I have a question. I love the content that Miss Dr. Hardy shared about like how to present yourself, how to present yourself the best, and about about where to find and how to build and develop your personal brand, I want to know if there would be slides, the PowerPoint slides would be available to reference after this Zoom meeting.
Yeah, we'll send that out and we'll send the recordings along too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, good question. Something I should have mentioned in the beginning. We'll share the slides and the recordings of these couple sessions and Dr. Roper's session. So we'll make sure we do that. Is there a question, Dina?
Yeah, if that's okay. Actually, my question is about contacting professors. So in that regard, so assuming that the professor I contact does not have the available funding, if that is listed in his response, so should that discourage me from applying to the PhD program, for example, or it's irrelevant?
I think if you are open to thinking about other people who may be in the same institution, then that should not discourage you. The other thing too is because the person doesn't have funding at that time, and I don't know if they may be applying to things that you don't know of, right? So they may have opportunities in the future. But I would definitely keep your thoughts open on who you may work with, because even though you may not directly work under that specific instructor or person, there may be room to collaborate with them, right? Or there may be an opportunity to have that person on your committee as well. So I would think about those things as well as considering the funding. Now, if they are funded through the NIH, you know that you can look that up, right? Through NIH reporter, and you can look and see whether or not they have a good amount of funding. But if they share with you, they're not taking on a student that year, you may want to seek out other folks who are, and ask them if they would be willing to take you on as a student. Programs do this differently. Some want you to reach out to somebody directly. Others do an umbrella program where a lot of people come in and they do rotations through different areas. So that might be something else to consider too, what type of program it is and whether or not you're allowed to do rotations versus having to directly apply to a professor or a lab.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other quick questions before we take a break? Again, like I said, we'll have time for more questions. I see thank yous to Dr. Hardy and Dr. Queener. I'm going to put up the agenda again and let you all take about a 5-minute break. So about